because we wanted something of quality that we could keep for a long time. So, it's on YouTube now, and people are still watching it. I didn't even make any publicity for it after the event, but people are still watching it. I think we're up to 10,000 views at this point.
When it's good, and I mean from this, I will also implore my listeners, people, please check it out because, I'm always for somehow incorporating art into training, and that I am attracted to people who have an affection for art generally. You are now listening to the English Coach podcast, where I attempt to add a splash of color and life to your learning experience by inviting you to live the language. The show is self-sponsored and independent and offers you immersion into the language in a fun and interesting way. Now, I neither speak French nor am I a musician, but for this publication of episode 73 today, the 21st of June 2022, I am taking the liberty to make this yet small incidental contribution to the Fête de la Musique in Berlin. I know historically speaking, France has always had a special relationship with, well, what some of us call black music.
Yes.
Yeah, as I'm coming from the days of Josephine Baker,
Mm-hmm.
and many other black musicians that found a haven in France in very dark days. I think it was like in the 20s and early 40s as well.
Did you know that the first time that jazz was played in Europe was in Nantes in 1918?
This episode will be interesting for language trainers with a flair for the eccentric, for language learners who are looking to enrich their language learning experience in memorable ways, and anyone else out there who's open to and interested in deriving even more from musical expression in a meaningful way. This episode 73 is another in the cross-promotional series and features our guest for today, a multifaceted, delightful personality from the Caribbean, language trainer extraordinaire and musical talent, joining us from all the way over there in France, Ms. Wanda Atkins. If you hear some kind of twang coming across, please don't laugh at me too loud. But
Really?
Yeah, please.
That'd be hard.
Ha. Ha. Okay. Wanda, it is so wonderful to have you here finally on the show. We have planned this for months.
I know.
Yes.
I know.
Yes. I mean, we all have our busy schedules, but, well, obviously yours is actually busy. Yes. I mean, it's not very many people who manage to not have time for me.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Yes, of course. This is fantastic. Well, I'm gonna try to get straight into it. I mean, you're there sitting in France and I'm here in Berlin. It's also nice to make mention of where we are, both of us. The reason why this episode exists, actually, it's first of all because I know that you're a trainer. I know that you're also from the Caribbean, as I am, and you're sitting in France. That means you're working as a trainer in Europe, as I do, and I know for a fact that you are also not only skillful in your craft of teaching, but also you enjoy the talent of playing pan. Is that correct?
That is correct. 1 point for
That
me.
is good. It made me. Also, I was so excited about it when I heard about it at first, and it tied in particularly well to a little series that I'm doing right now. And well, I did promise to get into the purpose of this episode quickly. So it is about how do you capture or harness, let's say, the good energy that you get from your art. Yes, this permission that you give yourself to unfold and perform on stage, playing a role with your instruments, doing your art. How do you harness that energy and try to get your students perhaps to feel the same way about using their target's language? Yes, natural speech through, good feeling and feeling confident and not worried about imperfections and so on. That is where I would like to go with this episode. Do you think you are ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, so now that I've given a quick overview of what we're doing, I'm just going to start with two little instances that happened with, well, the first one was a friend of mine. Her name is Claudia. Claudia she worked as a photographer, professional photographer in New York for a few years, and she's also herself an art teacher, so she knows what she's talking about. Now sometimes she also appreciates my little work with photography sometimes, and sometimes she shows me an image and I start analyzing it, and she says, listen, you don't have to analyze everything, looking for the composition and the light and the balance and whatever, but just enjoy it as it is. And another friend of mine, coincidentally yesterday I met with her. She is a writer. I will invite her to the show as well to take part in the poetry series because she has some very moving text. And she showed me a bit of text yesterday, and I was looking at it, and of course looking for the literary tools and looking for the, what would you call it, flow of the poem and so on. And she said, don't look at this piece as something that you have to analyze. Look at this piece in all its flaws as a single picture. And in that moment, with her, what she said, and also what Claudia said, and also this notion of perfect imperfection that I love to talk about. Both of these people, artists as well, one is a teacher, one is an author, photographer, arts teacher, and both of them said to me, well, sometimes you just have to accept things the way they are. And it's the same way I try to get my students, yes, and I'm sure you might have to do that sometimes as well, get them to accept the state that they're at and get them to unfold in the skill level that they have with the imperfections that exist at the time, right? So it was quite inspiring yesterday. I hope it's also inspiring to our listeners. But the first solid question that I have for you today is, and I hope you're ready, I'm just going to read because I did prepare. The theme of today's episode is out of class, enriching natural language. What does that mean to you?
Enriching natural language would be being authentic, not trying to copy something else that exists already, and really true expression. I think that's what it boils down to.
True expression.
Mm-hmm.
True expression. Whose truth?
Well, your personal truth, because sometimes people try to imitate things that they've seen and things like that. And when they do that, the message doesn't come across the same. So I think if people are authentic, they'll be sincere about what they're saying or trying to express.
All right. Well, in this, let's say anybody who takes part in a course is someone who has ambition. That means they're striving for something greater, right? And maybe therein lies this creative tension, because you are actually at a state that is not the desired state. Yes, you want to get somewhere else. Now, how do you perceive this state that is not desired, right? How do you accept that state when what you really want is something else? And it seems as if there's a tension there, because some people, in order to push themselves ahead, they have to scorn where they are today. Is that what, when you say authentic, is that how you would frame authentic?
In a sense, it's like, if I'm talking about, because I live in France, so there's a lot of French culture, so it's a little bit different. There, people really judge themselves immensely of how they speak and what they do and what other people think of them. It's very, very present all the time. So, and they would actually talk about themselves as being bad or, not worthy and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, wait, we need to stop. Who are you really? And that's why I start with that. Who are you really? Are you bad? Are you good? People have to find out who they are first before they can even start talking about self-confidence or being authentic. So it's kind of like a personal journey to figure out what that is exactly.
Yeah, well, I do understand, but I'm interested in knowing how you frame it, yes? Because I mean, if you are reaching for a position that you want or a state that you want, you don't really have to then hate who you are today. It's okay then to have healthy
Yeah,
ambition to
yeah,
move on, but it doesn't
mhm,
mean you have to hate who you are today.
yeah, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah, yeah.
mhm,
Okay, then we're definitely in agreement there. The sad thing with adults is that, sometimes we don't really give ourselves the chance to try things out, and we don't try unless
yeah,
the attempt will be perfect.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
'Cause no one
that's kind
doesn't
of
like
sad.
to be ridiculed
Hmm.
or feel ridiculed. So,
Yeah, yeah.
same
It is
as
definitely the society we live in. And again, as well, unrealistic ideals that are encouraged by advertising and some social networks, platforms, and so on doesn't help either.
yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to for people to take that journey of it's just rediscovering themselves actually. It's like
Hmm.
being in kindergarten and using colors again.
Using colors and being your child self,
Yeah.
that is definitely something I have to try to give permission to my participants to do, because some of them are, I sometimes go to them in their work setting,
Okay.
and by default they are carrying their roles around with them. So it's not about, let's say, a manager, a department head coming into the classroom and suddenly saying, oh, I'm going to be a child now in front of his employees, or his team members.
Mm-hmm.
That is, it's also a kind of a manage. We have to facilitate
Mm.
this
Yeah.
space, and
Yeah.
that's part of the whole experience as a trainer. Now, we're moving over to your experience as an educator. That is all very exciting, of course. However, the next question is, how does the theme, and this is where now, you can pause and think about it. We've spoken about, authenticity, being the child self, trying things out, not being afraid of imperfection, and so on. But how does that theme actually play out in your life as an educator?
How does it play
Yeah,
out?
how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you get people to get to that, let's say you call it an ideal learning state?
Well, by using everyday things, I'll say, okay, do you have a piece of paper? And they're like, yeah. Well, let's make a paper airplane. What? Well, let's make a paper airplane. It's really taking everyday things and making it into a teaching moment without people realizing. They're like, well, what am I going to do with a salt shaker? you know, what am I going to do with a chair? What am I, and it's taking them out of their comfort zone because they're not used to doing that, using their imagination like you do when you were a kid, when you're trying to build a tent with sheets. It's the same kind of thing.
Now, for those of you who haven't subscribed yet or are listening to the show for the first time, do head on over to www.englishcoachpodcast.com, where you'll find a list of recommended apps, associated links, course memberships, guest registrations, exclusive videos, and more ways in which you can support the show directly if you so choose. And while you're here, be sure to stay tuned or subscribe or follow the show freely from anywhere you are for yet another up and coming main event featuring the lovely and talented Laura, singer and songwriter, as she shares with us a small sample of her wide and many splendid musical repertoire in live studio performance, insight into her experience as both an accomplished stage performer and educator. Do not miss it. So then, without further ado, on with the show.
Businessmen, CEOs, all of them, they all do it because I do it all the time. I walk into a company and I'm looking at stuff like, oh, that looks kind of interesting, talking to myself and everything, like, who is this person? you know, but it kind of gives them in the beginning, it's strange, but then they're like, okay, they just accept that's just the way it is. So they know that. I think one of the first things you have to do though is to let them know it's a safe place, like a safe zone, in the classroom or wherever you're going to do whatever you're going to do. so that
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
they know that, okay, what stays in the room stays in the room, because for some people they don't want other people to know that they're making paper airplanes, for example. um,
Mm.
and once people know it's a safe zone, then they basically will do anything. They let themselves go because they can't do that
Yes,
during the day. So because
yes,
they let their guard down, then they let all this competition down with everybody else in the room, because they're kind of like in cahoots together, just like when they were in school. Like, hey, you want to do this? Come on, let's do this. This kind of thing. And after that, once you get past that, everything is, yeah, every time.
yeah, 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 yeah. All right. Well, I mean, the ID learning state, it's also been expressed as being the child, or yeah, called the child state. Yes, an open state, testing things out and so on. And I mean, every child, I think, at some point made paper planes, so that's a good way.
Did that last week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's it's definitely a good way. Definitely a good way. Now, in terms again of that child state, giving up oneself and, not being so afraid to make mistakes, that is definitely good. But another thing that I do recognize there is that if you're explaining, what I've also noticed, especially on YouTube, is that every time I see a new way to make a plane, right? And what you're actually doing there is actually teaching them also a process, how to do something. First, you do this, then you do that, then you do something else. It's the same process. Yes, explanation. So I would probably try that as well. I've done it with cooking
Yeah,
before.
it's great with cooking. It's fun with
Yeah,
cooking.
I've definitely done it with cooking. And that is also getting art into the learning experience,
Yeah.
by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Now, thank you very much for that. The third question that I had for today, and you can interrupt me if there's something that you want to ask me. If something pops up in your head, you can always interrupt.
Yeah.
All right. Now, the third one I had is the actual success, and the reason why I ask about success, you are working in companies, and of course you have to negotiate, or let's say you have to navigate between creating a good learning environment, facilitating a good feeling, framing or facilitating this good learning space that fits to the whole learning experience. But at the same time, you have to think about return on investment that the people who finance the training
Mm-hmm.
are thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
So in thinking about that, then you have to think about how this affects or impacts the life of the participants.
Mm-hmm.
When you incorporate these things, how do they respond to the paper plane or the cooking or whatever else?
Well,
How do they respond?
it depends on the profile of the
Mm-hmm.
type of people that you're working with. I mean, certain
Mm-hmm.
profiles might be uneasy with the idea. A lot of them can't wait to do it, and others are like, "Oh, I'm not really sure." You know, um, what usually happens, I just either go for it, and some people can be disturbed by it. Some people have been disturbed by it, like, "Well, this is not what is supposed to be done." And I'm like, "Yeah, but what you've been doing so far has gotten you to this point, and now you're going to pass on another point. So you have to give it time, because languages, when you're learning a different language, you're also learning culture. So,
Mm-hmm.
meaning accepting someone else's culture is a new experience. So it might be a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning. So I have to explain that to them too, because some people are just like, well, this is not business English. So yes, we're doing business English, but the problem is, or the issue might be, is you can learn business English on your own, but apparently, you need to do it a different way, to find a way to open it so it's not so, you know, difficult. So by showing them these types of activities and doing it with them, because that's the thing, you're doing it with them. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like you're watching them do it. You have to do it with them because you're a part of the thing. You know, Everyone shares the experience. It's an experience. It's not just learning a language. It's an experience. It takes some
Mm-hmm.
time, but it's for some people to understand that. Once they do, it's crazy what happens afterwards. They're like,
They do
whoa.
it. Yeah. Well, I definitely do understand what you're saying. I mean, it's this delicate dance between the qualitative and the quantitative, because you might have Mr. Finance in your, I don't know, your class,
Yeah.
and he's the one who actually, or she's the one who decides if your course is financed or not.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they have to have some measurable way
Yeah, of
to
course.
assess whether they're making progress with,
Hmm.
the activities that you're inviting them to take part in or not.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, so I use some online tools that are kind of like Miro and Padlet, things like that. So they have their other side, which has all their videos and all their things but that's what they're supposed to do outside of class.
Hmm.
Give them the responsibility of certain things. Said we might review this material in class, for example. So you always have the selling part of it, that they need to use at some point. And once they see that point, usually that reassures them somewhere. And
Okay.
afterwards, it's using it, you know. So when they say, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, okay," when I'm not here, I can look at what we did today. It's there, and if I'm really invested, I'll actually do it on my own because I'm an adult.
Hmm.
So when I come back, and if we're doing something else that's kind of related to it, and I could use it, that means I'm actually making progress. So that's how I do it anyway.
Okay, 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 okay. Yes, what I try to do is, well, I mean, that sounds good, of course.
Mm-hmm.
However, just as an additional tip, I mean, I'm doing pretty much the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the activity is, it can be playful, it can be silly, maybe they can't even recognize how they will benefit from it at the beginning. However, the learning goal has to be one that translates really quickly
Yeah.
into into a language that they understand. For example, today I'll be telling you the process of making a paper plane,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the reason why we're doing this is because we're learning to explain a process maybe to a new employee within the company.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of this series, it might be a series of maybe 2 or 3 classes or so, they will be then asked to role play
Mm-hmm.
a situation
Mm-hmm.
of they say, well, imagine that this person has just started on the production line, or I don't know, could be in the mailing room, or maybe it's a new intern in the human resource department and they have to sort mail. They've put some mail here and they have to take some mail somewhere else, and then they have to open some, and at the end we're going to do a role play that also goes into a similar process explanation. I can't think of anything that's
I usually
fits to making planes,
But
but
I usually just go there. If they're on the production line, I go to the production line with them, and we do it. We just
okay.
do it. We just hands on. Everything's hands on.
I've done that before. I did that once in a cement company. I still have the hard shoes, by the way. They said I could keep them. I don't know why they said I could keep them, but I also got to keep the I also got to keep the hard hat, the helmet.
I've been on production lines for pens, for airplanes, for
Wow.
all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, with guys that have grease in their hands, and they're like, "Well, we have to learn a process." I'm like, "Let's go to the workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Go, let's go." But you're wearing a skirt. I don't care.
Cool.
Let's go.
Oh my goodness.
And we go
Yeah.
one by one through the thing. Okay, you do this first, this second, this third. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Good.
you just
Good.
do it. You just do it. I mean, you can do role plays and stuff, which is great. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
there on site, you just do it with them. I've seen so many different things between pharmaceutical companies and stuff, and woo, cigarettes. I know how to make cigarettes. I know how to make.
Cigarettes?
Oh yes, I know.
You work for cigarette companies too?
Yeah, it closed down recently, but Féte, I was teaching them English because they were bought by English company at that time. All
Uh-huh.
kinds of stuff, and it was just like I didn't know how to make cigarettes before, and they showed me all kinds of stuff there. But
Oh, okay.
every company, it's always hands on. If I'm working with developers and I want them to explain a process, I'm like, okay, let's go through the process. Show me what you're doing. Let's do this together. And we do it together. We do it together. It's hands on every time.
That's
You
great.
know, because it
Hands
ends up
on.
respecting them at the same time or respecting what they do. You know, this is, everybody's got something that they feel proud of doing because it's their job. So they're proud to explain to you how they do it, so you explain to them how they can explain. And then the idea of also bringing other people from other departments together to find out what their job is so they can explain it to them.
Hmm.
That's also gratifying in a sense. And then they say, oh, that's how that works. I didn't realize that this was important for this. So it's kind of like team building at the same time and learning processes but everyone's involved. It's not just it's an exchange. I think that's what it is. For me it is anyway.
I can recognize that as well. I mean, right now, to be honest, I'm doing a lot online.
Mm,
I mean, since the first wave, I haven't really been going out so much, and I just stayed this way because I've been trying with online formats for years, since
mm,
long before the first wave, you know. But now I'm doing a lot online, so I'm not so much out in the company. But in terms of the value of different departments coming together, the team building aspect is not to be underestimated.
mm, mm, mm.
Sometimes I got the feeling that that element of having four, five, six departments, even maybe not six, but let's say four,
Yeah.
yes, tops, on one table,
Hmm, hmm.
in a much more jovial or informal setting,
Yeah.
was something that they never got to experience in any other setting at work. It's always some serious meeting
Yeah.
or some complaint or something that's heavily,
Mm-mm.
laden with work responsibilities and roles.
Right.
So it was looked forward to,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
There'd be, how often really do you have sales and human resource and logistics and production on the same table?
If I can,
Unless it's
much
a
as possible.
fight.
If I can, as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's great. All right. Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit of how it played out. This whole thing worked out for you as an independent,
Mhm.
self-employed language trainer in France, but I don't know to what extent you are independent and self-employed. Are you independent
Yes,
and
yes, I am
self-employed?
independent and
Ah.
self-employed.
Okay, okay. Because when you said the selling aspect there, I was like, oh, you mean because I have to sell my stuff, as well as do it.
Mm.
Does she have to sell and do too?
I should say that I'm very fortunate that I don't really have to sell it because it's really by word of mouth. It's kind of like it's become this thing where people say, I know this person who does this, and I've never had to look for a job. People have already contacted me. People contact me because I've worked in one place and they talk to another. It's networking. It's on there. For me, it's networking. Um, and after that, as long as you have one reference, it
Who is a little talkative, I hope.
yeah, 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 they are. And, I mean, because things change all the time. But someone say, yeah, but I need someone who can, really motivate my team. Do you know someone? Then I get an email or something on LinkedIn or, I mean, so I've never had to really sell it or in that way. No.
LinkedIn works for you like that.
Well, it works for me in the fact that people contact me easily that way,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
some of the things that I've already done that have been pretty much imaginative or whatever that people have filmed and I put it on LinkedIn. Other places
Mm-hmm.
look at them and like, whoa, okay, we want this person because they can do that, you know.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, well, that's
Yes.
good that LinkedIn
Yes.
works for you. I mean, LinkedIn doesn't really work for
Mhm,
me so
mhm.
much. I mean, I'm there and I do post, but yeah, to be honest, I don't know. I think I have some beef with a lot of these social network platforms. Um, but I
Well,
use them. They're good for some
did you
purposes, but
know that
we
the
don't have to
first
get
time
into
that jazz was
that right now. But
played
it's
in
nice
Europe
that it's
was
working for
in
you. I'm
Nantes
there, but it
in
doesn't really work
1918?
for me.
Post like I can't even tell you the last time I posted something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
no.
Well, you don't have to post. You just have to be there. I mean, and say hello to people, interact. Make comments. Yes, be there.
Mhm.
Not just you don't have to be some kind of posting machine, but
No, no. I don't
um
have time for that.
it
I don't have
yeah,
time. Don't
yeah,
have time for that. I really
yeah,
don't. I might say like
yeah.
or something once in a while, but that's seriously, I don't have time for that. I think for me, LinkedIn is kind of, they use the messaging part of it is the most important part because everybody has, kind of stuff going on there. But people use it to message other people. Really, they just get down to it, and ask you the question directly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could probably think about it a little bit more and change my approach a little bit. But yeah, also, yeah,
It was
that's not what this
for you.
episode is about. Well, thank you very much for that. As a lesson on LinkedIn, I'll definitely look into it some more. Maybe I'll look to see how you do things on LinkedIn,
Oh no,
and
done
just
that to follow. Just
imitation is the highest form of flattery. You should just immediately say, "Oh, thank you."
but again, really don't put any effort into to what I'm
Well, I don't know. You can actively choose. You can choose to do actively nothing.
true.
Yes,
Which
of
is
course.
the law of procrastination.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Choose to actively do nothing. All right. Well, anyway, there is this other quick question, and
Yes.
all of this still also ties in. It's coming closer to how you get the art in. I got a hint of that a minute ago with the paper planes and the child state, and creating this playful, more jovial, less formal atmosphere in your class.
Yes.
But now we're moving on to the question, which says, we both share a Caribbean heritage. What is your experience with accent, and how do you leverage your own experience with accent to the benefit of your participants?
Well, yeah, as you said, we do share a common heritage, you know,
Oh, yes.
heritage, you should say. And I actually use that. I don't know if it's on purpose. It's just whatever mood I'm in, I'm going to use the accent I feel like using that day. So I can
Hmm.
walk into an office and I'm feeling Caribbean that day. The accent is on. People might
Oh,
not understand
really?
what I'm saying, but it's entertaining for them. I'm having a good time with it because I feel like using it, so I'll use it. You know, but it's a different way of communication. I think uh, you communicate in a way that's a more gregarious. You're really friendly and warm, and people react to it. They really do. So if one day I'm like,
Hmm.
I might use an American accent and say, "How you doing today?" People are like, "Oh, who's
Hmm.
this?"
Hmm.
But for me, that comes naturally. Whereas some people will
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, what's that?" But then they get used to it and they start doing the same thing. And saying
Yeah.
that, oh, English doesn't always have to be this kind of, you know, dry kind of answer. So I would yell at somebody across the room. I'm like, hey, what's up? What you doing? And they're like, whoa. But they start to, it's just to open people up. Use your culture to open people up too, because that's part of it.
I've never heard an answer like that before. Me, for example, I'm gonna admit to you,
Mm.
I, my Jamaican twang, my Jamaican swang comes across if I get really excited about something.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
Apart from that, I try to, well, I think chances are you can recognize it much easier than, the average person in Germany. But it comes across much stronger when I get excited about something.
Okay.
If I'm in a classroom, then I'm trying to speak like flatly. So people, no sing song. Yes.
Okay.
And people understand me much clearer. As a matter of fact, I've been accused of being very clear in the way I speak, like using my R's at the end, pronouncing them at the end of words and so on, and not adding them where they don't exist, like idea and lore. I don't do that.
No, the thing is that they should get used to an accent, period. Because no one
Yeah.
speaks like the BBC. No one. I'm sorry. No one does.
Yeah.
So as soon as they hear something a little bit different, oh, I can't understand it. I can't understand it. No.
Hmm.
You can't.
Okay, so you just go with the flow. Well, good that they're using textbooks, and a lot of it is also written.
Okay.
Yes. So if you give the instructions in a strong dialect, then they can say, "Oh, okay, I think I'll read now." If I used my dialect that way, yes, as I can't,
You
I
can't.
couldn't
Okay.
do
Well,
that.
dialect, maybe not. Maybe not dialect.
Hmm.
If there's an accent, because the thing is, if they have to work internationally, there's
Hmm.
gonna be an accent. So meaning
Yeah.
that if they don't understand someone, they should be able to say that they don't understand and have someone re-explain. So that's another exercise in itself.
Aha.
So that's a great
Okay.
exercise for them to say clarifying, questioning.
Hmm.
That gets them into that. And if they don't know those
Hmm.
questions, you say, okay, when you don't understand someone, stop them. Don't look at your neighbor because he can't help you.
Hmm.
You're on your
Very
own.
good.
You're in that call by
Very good.
yourself. You need that person to
Very good.
clarify. You have to find a way of doing it. Get me to clarify.
That's a good example, actually.
Mm.
Yeah, if you don't understand, ask me to explain, ask me to rephrase. Yes,
Rephrase.
ask me
Ask
to
them to,
to repeat. How do you do
how do
that?
you do
Yes?
that? Da, da, da. They
Yeah.
have to because they're not going to get it the first time. You know.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, that's actually a gem right there because I didn't expect it, but this comes also back to your experience in France working because I also wanted to ask you about what is happening in these startups with remote work.
Mm,
Yes, and having to work with also international. Working internationally means working in English. So you
yeah.
might have a developer in the Ukraine, you might have a developer in the Czech Republic,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
and you have to communicate with them.
You have to. You have to. So that's why with me, when they said, "Okay, you're going to have some classes with Wanda," it's going to be completely insane. But it just made them ready for those situations. It made that they were
Hmm.
ready. They were like, "Okay, I don't understand what he's saying, but we're going to find the solution and not freak out." Okay, and they did every time without because
Yeah.
sometimes in the beginning they would freak out and stuff. I'm like, "Oh, okay, you can freak out now, but." Soon you're going to be able to say, all right, I don't understand. Let's find a different way instead of
Hmm.
saying, oh, let's stop because this kind of thing. Let me be patient. They had to learn patience. They had to learn, yeah. It puts them in a real situation. It's not a
Yes.
textbook thing. It's a real situation. I don't understand what she's saying.
True, 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 true. Because I mean, when you really think of it, we can. I know the seriousness of language. I mean, I've kind of like um, gone through some difficulties because of the German language,
Mm,
and I will not get into the details of that right now. However, I
mm,
also know how it can affect other people. I mean, I've had people call me from the toilet at like a trade fair, panicking because they thought they could, and then suddenly they were asked to say what they do or what their job is,
mhm.
and they can't, or they go to the trade event and they realize that it's not really so much about talking so much about the company or even about what you do, but it's about mingling.
Yeah, it
And
always,
they call
always,
in a panic from the bathroom.
yeah,
Oh, what am I gonna do?
mhm,
Or they break down in tears in class.
yeah. I know.
Or storm out. I've had that too.
I've had that too. You
You
guys
know?
are laughing too much. This is serious. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, the laughing too much thing. I mean, I had a professor once at one of the universities I was at here. He came to a bar I was working in, and he sat at the bar for 3 hours, if it wasn't four, drinking the strongest beer in the bar.
mhm.
And he said to me, "Why do you smile?" And I said, "Well, it's a gift." Yeah. It's a nice thing. And I think he was teaching cultural studies or cultural sciences at the time, and he probably had some theory that he needed to prove.
Ah,
And he kept asking me, "Why are you smiling? There must be a reason why you're smiling." And I mean, some people, there are some theories that say smiling, as I do quite a lot and laugh,
mm,
it's a kind of a self-protection.
it
Yes.
could be. It's a possibility.
And it's
Mhm.
a possibility. And some people also say, and again, I'll say again, I smile as much as you do, I laugh as much as you do, but in some of the more dangerous countries, like I think Brazil was part of the study,
Mm,
people there are very nice and they're smiley because they need to know who you are because you
mhm.
could be a murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everybody who's close, you try to be nice to them so they don't kill you. And in countries that are relatively safe, like I think Finland was one of them,
Mm,
they don't smile because they're secure. They don't have to be nice to anyone.
mm.
The state protects them. So it's a funny thing, but I'm not giving up my smile because I see it
Oh,
as giving
never.
sunshine. I see it as bring a little. In German we say Leichtigkeit, which is like
Yeah.
a little lightness.
Like
How do you say it? A lightness. How do you say it in French? A lightness into
la
the room.
lumière. Amener
Oh,
la lumière. Mhm.
okay, fantastic. I love French. I don't understand anything, but I wanted to stay that way, so I'm not even gonna try.
Okay.
It sounds so beautiful.
Okay, you
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right. So now you have told me that you embrace, if I understand you correctly, you embrace your accent. You
Yes.
bring it into the learning space
Oh,
when
yeah.
you
Always.
feel it.
Mhm.
And if someone has a problem with it, you don't say, well, if you have a problem with it, you don't know what's good, so it's your problem. You don't say that. You
No.
say to them, no, you should ask yourself, how do you ask for clarification?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a lesson.
How do you ask for repetition? How do you ask me to rephrase
Mm.
something? How do you know or recognize what is important about what I'm saying or if I'm saying anything important at all?
Exactly.
Yes, yes, yes.
What does it
Thank
mean?
you for that. I will use that. I hope it's not copyrighted.
It's not copyrighted. It's in the air.
Good, 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 good. All right, it's a perfect segue because we're talking about bringing good vibes, bringing in feelings into the classroom, and so on. Question number 6. Tell me more about your musical passions and how is this enriching your own lived experience? You can go into that, or if you want, you can talk about first how you bring this musical expression to demonstrably help your course participants. Music.
Music.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't make this up. Someone else made this up. They said the first heartbeats is the first beats of music. So everybody can
Yes.
share music.
Yeah, I don't think that's copyrighted. I've heard it
I
many
don't think
times
that's
too.
copyright,
Yes.
but I didn't make that
But,
one up. No, for
but how do you do it? How
what?
do you do it?
Sorry. Well, if you're talking about work, how do I do it? Is for me, I play steel drum because Trinidad and
Yes.
Tobago created the steel drum in the 1940s, and my uncle sent me one in France. He sent it to France. Can you believe it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I learned how to play steel drum in France. Incredible. And one day I said, well, because I'm a musician anyway, I said, it'd be great if I bring it to work. Since I was doing anything I wanted to do anyway. So I brought it in, and people were like, what is this? I said, let's talk about the history of the instrument, where it came from, its origins, and how it plays today. So I would tell a story. I would use the instrument, but I would tell a story first. And so people could kind of identify with the story, but they had to imagine the story. So I would have everyone close their eyes and I would tell the story. I'm not going to tell the story now, but I would tell the story in a certain type of way that they would have to imagine being in the Caribbean, in a place where it's warm, and what the situation was like and how they felt and all this kind of stuff. And people started to identify with the instrument because it's kind of universal in a way, the underdog that wants to do something new that's never been done before. It kind of is a protest, or their voices that are being heard. So I would always introduce music that way, especially with this instrument in particular, because it's so unique, and do a team building workshop with it. People say, okay, you choose a song, we're going to learn how to play it. But one person shows another person. And they're like, yeah, but why? Don't worry about why. Just do it. So people, I would show one part of the song. They show it to one person. They show it to the next person. Because the whole idea is listen to each other. That's all it is. Listen to each other. So at the end, they can play a song together. And they're proud of something that they did together because they listened to each other, which is teamwork. If you don't listen to, it's not going to work. And so that's how we use music in the beginning to get people to, really take that time to understand each other, because people have different ways of communicating. And through music, it's so much easier to do because, again, you find yourself in that childlike state of learning something new. And for them, it's always been magical. It's magical for me every time because we always learn something new.
As a podcast, I hope your training rooms are soundproof because, I can't imagine Pan echoing from the, the factories here.
But people come, they're like, what is that? Come on in, take a look. Like, oh my goodness, can I touch it? It's kind of, oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I never learned music. I can recognize good music, yes, but I never learned it. So how are the notes written for Pan? Just like normal, or is it somehow differently written so people can, catch a tune or play a tune quickly, even if they can't read musical notes?
You don't need to read musical notes to play the instrument. You play by imitation. So that's why I say when someone learns a song, they show it to another person and they imitate what they do. Because in the beginning, not everyone knew how to read music. I mean, it was, but they had the notes were everywhere on the band. And then it was only the musicians later on that decided there should be a certain way to place the notes from do, re, mi, fa, si, la, do, and so that it made more sense with sharps and flats and things like that. But everyone now, it's you play by imitation, but sometimes the notes are not exactly in the same place in every country. It might be off just a little bit. I went to Japan and it was off by 2 notes. I was like, oh, that was an experience. But
wow.
But it's just to know that anybody could play anything really if they wanted to.
Well, we'll see tomorrow, as I said. And for the listeners, you should look out for this. I have a lady coming over to play chanson tomorrow. And there's a piano there in my living room section that I cannot play. My cat plays it more than I do. But we shall see. That's how close I come to music. I'll film it, I'll tape it, I'll record it. Yeah, not tape. But unfortunately, I don't play. I also photograph dance, yes, but I don't dance on the stage. I dance behind my camera. So, I have this strange relationship to dance.
Do you ever wish of really performing, maybe? Do you have kind of a fantasy of performing in front of people? What would that
performing behind the camera, you mean? In front of people behind the camera? That's, that's interesting. I think I'll probably do a photo like that today.
Mm-hmm.
No. Well, probably no. I don't have any fantasies. I am totally fantasy free, apart from for workshops for my classes and for my lessons. I do have some fantasy where that is concerned, but apart from that, no.
Okay.
All right. Well, of course I do. I'm just playing around. All right. Well, now you've just told me how you bring that into the classroom, so it helps to enrich then how they feel the creative process. They get a sense of achievement when they manage to communicate and to imitate from maybe an explanation of someone else. And of course, I'm assuming that you do this then also in English, yes?
Yes, only in English.
Okay. Fantastic. Now, as far as I know as well, I can't do that, unfortunately. I can do with my only tool is my camera. I can do that with photography or cooking, but not with Pan, unfortunately. And I do look forward to hearing more, Wanda, because this story there are some memories that are coming across. I think I have slightly visions of how the notes are written, and I see letters and
Yes.
circles.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the instrument itself is a petrol barrel that's
Yes.
recycled.
Hmm.
And what they do in the beginning is they trace the notes on the head of the drum, of the
Yes.
bell itself. And
Yes.
they decide where the notes are going to be placed. So that's when we have tracing and things like that. And but that's, they have to hammer the drum to make it concave. It depends on what you want
Hmm.
to use it for, as a bass or a
Hmm.
tenor, or things like that, because it replaces different parts of the orchestra. If
Hmm.
it's a bass, it's only going to have three notes on each one, three or four notes tops. It depends. And so for every part of the orchestra, there's a different pan that represents that part, like a cello, like a guitar. And so the notes that
Hmm.
you see that are round or oval shaped can come in octaves. So it could be low or high. Uh,
Yes.
so the metal, when it's very thin, the notes are very, very high. When it's thicker, it's lower. So
Hmm.
that changes the tonality of what you're playing by the type of instrument you decide to make, basically. So
Yes.
it's a magical drama. That's for sure.
Well, of course. I did also learn a little bit of conga drums ish at
Yeah.
the Edna Manley School of Music,
Hmm.
School of Arts in Jamaica. Did a short course there for a while. But that's my own experience with drums. And the Oriental dance that I do here, they use the tabla a lot
Yeah.
for the Oriental dance,
Yeah.
which is totally different. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. That is lovely. But it's for
Yes.
me, this instrument it's more than just an instrument. Again, it's like all the drums. Might seem a bit dramatic what I'm going to say next, but in every single civilization, if there was an indigenous culture, they usually took away the drums because that was their voice. It was,
Yeah.
it was a way of communication. It was everything. It was ceremony. It was heritage. It was ancestry. It was everything. And
Yeah.
it's probably the strongest way of communication that we have. And so maybe that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it just this instrument was the only acoustic instrument created in the 21st century. The 20th century. So it's like, wow, it's tremendous in that way. Um,
Yeah.
and now it's becoming universal.
It means a lot to you.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely becoming universal also on account of what you are doing. And that leads us also to the next mention that I'd like to make here. The festival that you've managed to put together. I'm so proud of you there.
Thank
Tell us about that. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, in Trinidad and Tobago, there is a competition called the Panorama. And the Panorama is all the steel drum groups in Trinidad and Tobago who compete semifinals, finals, to become, number one for the year. And we decided to do that in France for the first time.
Hmm.
So during the pandemic, I started calling people. It took 18 months to plan. I started calling different groups all over France because I was president of a group at that time, and saying, "Hey, why don't we do a panorama, but a French one?" I mean, they do it in Miami, in Toronto, in England. How come there's
Hmm.
never been one in France? And I said, well, we've been talking about it for years, but it's the French always go, it's a bit complicated, and then agree, and I'm like, so I just said, okay, let's do this. I just kept on pushing it, and said, okay, let's have meetings every month. We get together, put some ideas together, and but during the pandemic, how do you do something like that? And I said, well, there are periods of time we can come out and go back in. So film when we can, film what we used to do to start off with, and then let's make a competition. Let's just do it. And yeah, I was able to convince, in the end, 300 musicians with 18 groups from all over France decided to join this adventure. They all recorded themselves in a video in tribute to Trinidad, of course, and it was judged by international judges and everything. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. So yeah, I created that event for France. It was the first time ever it's been done. So
300.
it was
Oh
phenomenal.
my goodness.
Phenomenal.
I am in the presence of celebrity. As I know, I mean, if you're doing something like that on a national level, I mean, that is no small feat. I mean, 300 musicians. I have problems when I have to organize one musician. And you organize 300 and made a national event. Oh my goodness! And you guys are gonna do it again. Tell me more. How did you do this? Make this during Corona time. Tell me more. Also, there must be some special trick you used. Some people I know, for example, some choir people, they use this software that they can work online and adjust the sound of people remotely and so on.
Well,
Did you use that?
the thing is what we did was we asked everyone if they could was to have it professionally recorded. The video. So we had to work
Okay.
down to make sure that so that it was we gave it a certain parameters for each video that it had to be
Mm-hmm.
filmed a certain way if possible, so it could be fair for everyone because we want it to be fair. And
Yeah.
considering so people had different studios work for them and stuff, but it was one shot. One shot. Some groups must have done it 15 times to try to get it right. Paris, for example, they did it once. Their songs they did once because they wanted people to have the sensation of being in Trinidad and when you get judged that one time that you play. So that
Okay.
was intense for Paris. Other places maybe had to record it a couple of times because everybody
Mm-hmm.
was really nervous. It was the first time they had been filmed, to
Okay.
play and but it was really good because all the musicians during the pandemic and all the artists we really suffered from not performing,
Yeah.
and it
I
was
saw that with the dancers. I mean, my heart was broken because I could see many of them, I could see the frustration without words, I could see it.
it was just it was so hard. So by practicing a song and really going back saying, okay, we have two songs that we've played before, let's play it the best way we can. It gave people a new goal, something to look forward to. So we're going to do this every year. As long as we can do it, we'll do it every year. So I believe the next one will be virtual. The third one maybe will be in person. It depends on how things go, but
Mm-hmm.
it's woo, it's something else. I mean, I had help. I had a small team of people who helped me find like the judges because I didn't know. I just kept on asking, who do you know? Who do you know? That's how you make your network work for you. And
Mm-hmm.
that got me in touch with people who actually judged uh, the 18 different groups to place the
Yeah.
number one, just to number one.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness. And all of this based on professionally recorded videos.
yeah, yeah. They found. I mean, Guadeloupe also participated. Next year,
Mm-hmm.
I think Reunion Island is going to participate. We're trying to get all the French territories and everything to participate. Also, it's yeah, yeah, because we wanted something of quality that we could keep for a long time. So it's on YouTube now, and people are still watching it. I didn't even make any publicity for it after the event, but people are still watching it. I think we're up to ten
Yeah,
thousand
well,
views at this point.
when it's good, and I mean from this I will also implore my listeners, people, please check it out because I'm always for somehow incorporating art into training, and that I am attracted to people who have an affection for art generally, and that was definitely something that triggered me in the best way when you told me that you did that, and so on. That's why I really wanted to have you on the show today.
Thank
That's great. And that YouTube link, I'm definitely gonna put it in as well. So again, I wanted to implore the listeners to check it out, and send some love if you can, right? It's just a click away, you don't have to write too much of a long love story, but it's good to get some resonance. It's a fantastic thing. I know historically speaking, France has always had a special relationship with, well, what some of us call black music.
Yes.
Yeah, as I'm coming
Yes.
from the days of Josephine Baker
Mhm, mhm.
and many other black musicians that found a haven in France in very dark days. I think it was like in the 20s and
Well,
early 40s as well.
did you know that the first time that jazz was played in Europe was in Nantes in 1918?
I can imagine. I listened to a BBC documentary recently, and
Yeah.
it was about black music in France. It was quite long. It was probably like a 5-part
Yeah.
documentary. Very, I can recommend it if I find it. I'll probably even put the link in the show notes here, because I mean, this is somehow comparable. Because for these things to happen, you have to have the support of the people around you. You have to have people around you who believe in it. If you have too many people around you who don't believe in it, their belief will stop it from happening. So obviously you had that, and I'm just, the only thing I can do, which seems reasonable to me, is to tie this into the same attitude that France had towards people like Josephine Baker and all these other black musicians, the movement of jazz and all of that in France.
Yeah.
So I definitely put it alongside it. Yeah.
Super duper.
Yeah, of course, of course, of course. And I say that with a straight face. I'm always smiling all the time, but this is no joke business,
Use
right?
your smile yet, huh?
No smile, no smile. Serious. I'm really proud of you, yeah. And I don't know. I'm very anxious to see how this develops. Of course, I wanted to ask you how you get, since we started with out of class, if you've gotten any of your participants to come out of the classroom with you and join you at one of these training events or one of these.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
you have?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh no. Everybody likes to try something different. So yeah. Yeah.
Nice,
Mhm,
nice.
mhm.
I have this friend here in Berlin as well. We're coming to the end of the show. His name is Barney Miller, and he's a DJ.
Ah.
And I've been asking him for about a year now to come onto the show. But he's a busy man,
Mm,
and he used to play dancehall a lot, dancehall music here in Berlin.
okay.
He's really one of the best, if not the best. And now he's doing a lot of calypso, soca, bacchanal, and all these things that are more from your side of the pond, you know. And I asked him, why are you doing this? And he said, well, yes, it's just, the natural process. And I do admit, I think it's easier to start moving to calypso than it is to start moving. I don't want to compare, yeah? But the people that I know, it's easier for them to start moving to something calypso-ish
Okay.
than something dancehall-ish,
Mm,
right?
mm.
And I feel that, I mean, just start, I mean, I'm not saying, some people also say it's easier to start English, yeah, start speaking in English than it is to start speaking in German,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But once you get into the languages, it's a different story. It's probably the other way around. Yeah. So it doesn't say anything about the quality or anything about the music. It's just how it is. So he's going there now because it's picking up a lot here in Berlin. I say all of that to say
I
this.
have to come to Berlin.
It's picking up. It's picking up. Yes, 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 indeed, indeed. All right. Well, you know what? Since we're here and we're on the pan thing,
Mhm.
do you want to make any special mention of anybody who particularly helped you? Like support partners, or anything. Maybe special attitudes of the people who took part that helped it to be a success. This
Mm.
panorama that you did.
Wow.
The list is
Definitely
endless.
my little, my little team. I'd be like Matthew
Yeah.
Boulogne, Mathis Meunier, Duvin
Ah.
Stewart, uh, so many people. All the judges, really. There's so many judges. Andre
Yeah.
White, Rudy
Okay.
Smith,
Yeah.
Michelle Huggins. I mean, these are just
Wow.
people who gave their free time to help out and judge and watch hours and hours of videos just to
Mm-hmm.
so this could be put on and really all of the groups who participated because seriously there were grandchildren playing with their grandparents, everybody was playing and they were so proud of themselves and they
Yeah.
need a big up. Really,
Yeah.
really. They're the ones that made it happen because they did
Yeah,
it.
of course.
They
Of course.
did it. And it would be nothing without them.
Yeah. And I mean, with the family as well, Pan is a happy
Mhm,
kind of thing.
mhm,
I can easily imagine kids running around happy. I can, I don't who knows what the next festival will look
mm,
like.
mm, mm.
Yes?
Yeah,
Who knows?
it's gonna be something. It's gonna be something, you know.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
yeah, looking forward to
Yeah,
it.
well, maybe it's a reason for me to visit France finally.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we gotta, get this thing moving here.
Maybe, 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 maybe.
Mhm,
All right. Well, you know what, Wanda? This is a cross promotion. Finally, we did it.
mhm, it's fun.
And your story will definitely inspire my listeners as well, right? So, in addition to the links you're gonna send, well, the link you're gonna send me for the YouTube video, maybe your personal link. I know you're active on Instagram. Your Instagram link will be there as well. And any other site that you have that you want me to share, they're all gonna be in the show notes, people. There might be a small video exclusive that you can find on the podcast page. However, that's it's an audio podcast still, so that's a small promise
Mm,
that might or might not happen. Yeah, but I'll let you know. Now, in terms of how people can find out more about you, not just the YouTube video, not just the Instagram, not just the places where you practiced probably and the support you had and all these wonderful people, but is there anything else that you'd like me to share?
hmm.
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 LinkedIn, perhaps.
LinkedIn. I guess it'd just be LinkedIn, I guess, at that point. Back to that again.
Yeah.
It would be LinkedIn at this point. I'm having to
Okay.
take care of the rest. But yeah, it would just be LinkedIn at this point. Nobody, it's
Yeah.
still a mystery for a lot of people. So I'll see how long I can keep the mystery going.
Okay. Okay, a little intrigue is good, Keep them guessing. It's fantastic.
Always.
It's fantastic. All right. Well, now we've come to the end. Yes. And I usually put two things out. Yes. I usually ask my guests if they have any questions for me. But if you don't have any questions for me, yes, particular questions, burning questions, then you could also give me a message that you have for the world. Yes. The learners of English out there who probably struggle with attaining natural language through maybe free time activities.
Yes,
Yes.
I would
Anything
say
there?
my message would be believe in yourself. You can do and you can do it. You can do it. You can communicate. You will be able to communicate. You just have to believe in yourself. No matter where you're starting from, you can always go up. You can always go up and find the way that you communicate. So, as long as it's something that's positive, you can do it.
Okay.
Mm,
Believe in yourself.
mm.
Believe in yourself. Yes, yes, yes. I'll try to do that too for myself, and hopefully I don't become a narcissist. But, you know, even if I do touch on the narcissist zone, I hope somebody's there to touch me on my shoulder and say, hello, back down to earth, please. I hope so. I've been told that everybody has a little inside, but
Yes, of
managing
course.
that is the real challenge.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. It
Yeah.
is. It is. It
Yeah,
really is.
believe. Yeah, that's good advice. That's good advice because I don't know if it's a European thing or whatever, but some people they find a strange kind of motivation from beating themselves up.
Yeah, you'd be surprised when you hear people talk about it. Sometimes you're like, you want to cry. You just like,
Yeah,
please stop talking about yourself
yeah,
that way. you know,
yeah.
but, we're
I
only
had I
human.
had this friend when she made a mistake, she'd slap herself in the
Mhm,
face,
mhm,
like
yeah,
3 times hard, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
yep.
She would do it every time she made a mistake. Just imagine, yeah, you have a student every time they make a grammar mistake, they slap themselves in the face,
Yep.
right? I
Mhm.
mean, that's comical. That's like dark comedy. I mean, I should probably talk to my theater friends about that.
Yeah.
We
Mm,
should
mm.
do a piece because, yeah. But seriously speaking, though, yeah, believing in oneself. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that. It's true. It's true. All right. So, I think that's it.
Okay.
From lovely Berlin, it's always a pleasure, having you, talking to you, and having you also, well, enjoy the conversation a little bit. Yes, as I
Yes.
think.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward also to the next time, Wanda, and all the
Yes.
best. Keep me posted
I will.
and take care.
Yes.
All right?
All
All
right.
right then. Bye bye.